In the past, we were bringing in everything, and that becomes painful because if it's not within your wheelhouse, like these are not core competencies, and we're stretching our team and our folks, it's not a good place to be. And we've always made those conscious decisions. We had a very large opportunity last summer, and it didn't align to who we were. And we kind of sat down as a leadership team and we made the decision, and it was within the first 30 days that we made contact with that potential client, or was a client at the time, and said, this is not going to work for us.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset, founder and CEO of Servosity. Today, I continue my mission to interview 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on the planet. Today, I am blessed to be joined by both Karen Schell and Melissa Bryant. What's interesting about that is Karen is the outgoing president and Melissa is the incoming president, both hired to make this MSP grow. The other thing I think is super interesting that you can learn from is they rose through the ranks of customer service, and that has enabled their business to grow by referrals faster than their sizable marketing investment. So if you want to know how they've grown from 50 to 78 employees with organic growth through a lot of referrals, through raving customer service, don't miss out on my conversation today with Karen and Melissa. Karen, tell me about your journey as far as joining DP and kind of being tapped to come be the president ultimately.
Well, back in the day, I worked for a IBM business partner by the name of Computer Aid. And it was an opportunity that I had while I was in college, started as a kind of a summer job and so forth and so on. I worked there as I finished college and did a lot of things with my finance degree in regards to deployment of financial applications, and then got involved in manufacturing and distribution and had great success there. I then had the opportunity, actually, Computer Aid was acquired by DP Solutions.
Okay.
And I made the big decision not to join DP Solutions at the time. I had an opportunity I had an opportunity to join one of my clients, which was a manufacturing client. And so I jumped ship and jumped IT and went into project management, shop floor management, large account management, and did a lot of things I never thought I would do, including wearing work boots and earplugs and a hairnet most days. But it was super, super exciting. Yeah. The one thing, though, that happened during all that was DP Solutions was our computer technology company. So I stayed connected with DP Solutions.
Now let me ask you this. You went and did project management for manufacturing, but at Computer Aid, were you in an IT role?
I was, yeah. Okay. So I started kind of in a finance back office role. Back in those days, you didn't have kind of off-the-shelf software. So we had custom financial applications that the owner of the company had written that I used every day, that I became the support and the implementer and the demoer of those products. And then we got involved with a company up in the Boston, Rhode Island area that had written distribution software for the IBM mid-range platform that we became a reseller for. And I learned distribution and then learned manufacturing software and did the same thing. So I was the demoer, the implementer, the installer, right? And I did all the training and that type of engagement during my stint there. The manufacturing company that I went to work for was actually a customer of one of those platforms.
I'm seeing a pattern there.
Yes. Yeah.
So why leave? Why leave IT for project management? What was your motivation then?
Can I be honest? I'm going to be honest.
Please.
I didn't want to come work at DP Solutions.
Okay.
It was further away for me from home. I had two elementary school age children. Mm-hmm. The manufacturing company was 15 minutes from my house, and kind of the star and the moon, everything aligned, and it just made sense. And I had a great relationship there. So I jumped ship. And I'll be honest with you, for the first year, I thought, oh my God, what did I do?
Right.
Because I was out of my comfort zone. But I learned a lot there. And being a woman in manufacturing, you learn very quickly that you can do this. And I've always had that mantra, and that was the one thing that I learned there. It's not a matter of whether you're a female or a male. Who's best for the job? Yeah. And let's do it. So that those were life lessons for me that I learned there.
Interesting. And so somehow you ended back.
I did.
Somehow you ended up back at DP.
So a gentleman by the name of Simon Tutt became president in 2006 here at DP Solutions. We ran into each other at a Christmas party, and we had conversation that evening. And that January in 2007, he called me and he said, "It's time for you to come to DP." And I said, "Okay." Earplugs, work boots, hairnet, shop floor. Yep, I know what you've been doing. It's time. So I joined DP Solutions in a sales role. And I've had a great 18 years of success. I became president in 2018 when he made the decision to retire. And now I have made the decision to retire, and Melissa Bryant is our incoming president. Super exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. It's also super rare that I get to speak to more than one person at a time. It's so hard to get your time. Melissa, tell me your journey. I think it's really interesting how you ended up at DP.
Definitely, yeah. So I actually started as a marketing manager at a company called Choice Technologies, which was another MSP in this area. Okay. And did that for a couple of years. And then, the industry started changing where you needed more of a focus around IT management and account management. So we built out that team, and we started an IT management department, which at the time was more, we were helping with large account management, day in and day out items. And then moved more into the traditional account management of the accounts that we had at the time. Stayed an account manager until DP Solutions acquired us in 2016. My story is a little different than Karen's in that, I do have a young child and what have you, but I have a husband who supports me greatly and allows me to be able to be here full time. So he's able to take care of my child back at home every day. So that's been super helpful for me in my career and being able to move beyond just that account manager and into my management role. So when I came into DP Solutions, I took about a year, kind of felt things out. Where are we? Is this really the place I want to be at for the long term? Sure. And, Karen and I obviously had several conversations, but I also had a conversation with Simon, our CEO president at the time. And at the time I said to him, I really want to be the next VP of operations. That was the role Karen had when I came in, knowing that I've always wanted that kind of operational focused role. Even at Choice, we had a COO who I worked very closely with, and you just take to the way that you come into the organization, you're able to kind of move through the operations and make an impact within the team. So, had that conversation, moved into the client experience manager role. So at the time, I was overseeing our service desk as well as our account management team. And then we continued to grow and scale after that. So Karen came in and we had quite a bit of growth from the time Karen became president. Honestly, we continue to grow. While we might be a little bit smaller, we're still growing. And that's the goal. So then from client experience manager, went into director of client experience, mainly overseeing the service desk, but also our escalations, and at the time they were like our net admin type of team. So on-site support, field services, and some proactive work. Then, moved into VP of client experience, which at that point overseeing all of service desk, technical, engineering, and starting to get more involved on the operations and technical operations side as during that time, we knew Karen was eventually going to retire. We didn't know when, but we knew that there was a timeline that was going to start happening. So having that ability to not just handle our service teams and escalations, but take over operations support, as well as kind of dip my toes right back into the account management and client strategy advisor teams. So it's been a journey, and now I'm moving into moving into COO a year ago. So that's really when things started, I guess, moving faster, a lot more operational focus around the dollars and cents. Are we making sure that we have got the right pricing for our vendors? Are we making sure we've got processes and procedures in place that are going to sustain the growth as we move forward? As well as understanding the financial side of the business more so than we've had previously. So
interesting. Yeah. So congratulations on becoming the incoming president, and
thank you.
Equal congratulations to being the outgoing Karen.
Thank you,
Melissa. I want to stay on your story for a moment. Were you marketing role still, or you moved to account management when DP acquired and you were joining?
I was in account management. I was technically not named, but I was the manager of the account managers at Choice Technology at that point.
Yeah. So the thing that's interesting, one of the things that's interesting, many of them, is you were in, when I think marketing manager, I don't immediately think that's going to be the COO, let alone the president. And I really don't think that, naturally in account management, obviously, there's an exception, and you were one of those. Did you always kind of have like those aspirations, or was that more gradual?
So one of the things as I was growing up, and I would talk to my parents, and it was always, you got to do better than your parents did when they were at work. So there was always this, my dad was a director when he was in work. So there was always this, I knew I wanted to at least get to that level in wherever I was working. But I always knew I wanted to manage people. So I knew I wasn't going to stay marketing manager and account manager forever, that I wanted to manage people. So that was, the driver. And from there, as you kind of start learning more, I definitely I wanted to continue on that path upward.
Interesting. And Karen, kind of similar question, right? If I understand, when you joined DP Solutions, you were in sales. Is that right? Did you think, hey, that's where I'm going to end up being the president?
Heck no, no. And it was interesting because I started in sales, primarily focused on manufacturing and distribution accounts. Melissa will tell you I'm somebody that doesn't keep her mouth quiet. In fact, somebody told me I needed duct tape and oven mitts as I transition as president, so that I learned to not talk and I don't type on the keyboard. Anyway, but I saw things and I would have conversations. We didn't have, and when I started, we didn't have project management. We were kind of just tipping our toes and what does it mean to be like MSP, managed services? That was like a new thing. Mm-hmm. And we had acquired a company, and I think in like 2009, and we thought we were acquiring a company that had a service desk and a help desk. And we found out once we integrated that team that they weren't. It was kind of like, oh yeah, we're service desk, but we're also the people that are getting dispatched, and we're doing account management. It was, it was really, really interesting. So anyway, from sales, I went into project management because we needed that. And then as we integrated that first company that we acquired, I started kind of dipping my toes in other areas, and I worked very closely with Simon to start building what does service desk management look like? How do we take care of the clients and those engagements? And then just went really heavy operationally the majority of my career here.
That's really interesting. I think you both were saying that. And that you went heavy operationally. And my point is, I kind of think of like, well, often the president is either the operational or technical person, the CTO or COO kind of before that, or they're that sales role. And it sounds like you both went through those. You did both, right? And that seems highly unusual. Like most people are.
I think that's what has made us successful.
I would agree. Yeah. The experience in all those areas, just set us up for success to be able to do what we're doing today, really.
So I'd love for each of you to answer, but how did you not suck in one of those areas? Because I'm not great at some of those. Like I might be good in one area, but like I show up in the other. I'm like, oof,
you gotta fake it till you make it. That's what you have to do.
That's our new tagline.
No,
not problem solve, fake it until you make it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
But it's about making sure, you got to play to your strengths, right? Through each of those roles, you have certain strengths, and then you have to look for, okay, if I can't do X within whatever role, who are the people within that team that can support? Mm-hmm. So it's not just, yes, you can be successful, but it's about pulling, how do you pull your resources to keep things moving forward?
Mm.
I think one thing that's extremely important, and we have competitors in the area that are born and raised technical leaders, owners.
Mm-hmm.
So they get in the weeds quickly. Melissa is more weed hacking than I am. But the one thing, and I learned this when I was in manufacturing, engineers have a tendency to do this.
That's right.
Blinders are on. They can't think outside the box, right? It's very linear. And the one thing that I brought to the business, Melissa brings to the business, is that outside the box thinking. It's not always about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you approach things differently? And one of the core areas for us is it's the customer relationships, those engagements that we have. And we've put a real focus around who we are as an organization when it comes to culture. And that's really what makes us successful. Yes, we're techie, but we're more than that.
Would either of you say, like in the beginning, you were tech? Because obviously that's the stereotype. Like I was the tech person. Neither of you. Yeah, that's really fascinating.
I had friends say to me, there's going to be a lot of MSPs out there that go, oh my God, I can't believe she's running a company or did. That would say to me, you do what? You're not technical.
Right.
But again, I go back to my 12 years in manufacturing. I didn't have to be technical. That wasn't my job. My job was to pull the right people together that understood what it is that they needed to do and to help lead them forward, right? I always use the scenario of that Verizon commercial where the guy stood in front and then he'd point to the back of all the great people. That is a leadership role. Yeah. It's not about you doing it. It's about how you lead your team to move them forward.
Yeah. What do you think is, this may sound, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this question. Like, what is the business you're really in? Like, what is it about? Because, for instance, a lot of people say it's a technology business.
It's a people business. Mm-hmm. We're in the people business. Yes, we have to fix computers, but at the end of the day, there's a person on the other side of that computer, and they have, thoughts and feelings and perception on how everything is going. And it's important that we are putting our best foot forward and making sure we're giving them the best client experience that we possibly can.
Yeah, I see that while the stereotypical was the tech that just had this passion that grew it into a business. And I think a couple decades ago, just getting technology to work at all was such a challenge. I won't say it's easier now, right? With all the all the complexity and all the cybersecurity and things that just weren't a thing, or as much of a thing a couple decades ago. But I'm seeing you are a great example, Melissa, of like there's this next generation that isn't necessarily just hung up on the tech, and that focuses more on leadership and realizes it's a people business. And I think we all need to hear this, because if you happen to be that majority that is so hung up on the technology, you know, at least as somebody that was the tech guy, hung up on the technology, got stuck on it when I needed to lead more or get out of my comfort zone more. So I think that's, I think some people would see that as like, you can't do that, like you're saying, Karen. But I think it's actually a superpower, not a weakness. Karen, give us some context. You mentioned an acquisition in 2009, and then Melissa talked about, when Choice Technologies was acquired in 2016. Give me some context for how many employees you are now and the rough sizes of those acquisitions.
Okay. So we're, I think, officially 78, 79 people right now.
Okay.
We kind of want to stay there. When we acquired Choice, we were about 30 folks, and Choice was 25. So in 2016, that spring, we became a team of 55.
Wow.
When we acquired the other company, it was called ATSG in 2009. I don't remember how big we were or how big that company was. I would say that company was probably less than 15 people. And probably at the time, we were probably 20, 25. So
it wasn't a huge acquisition.
No.
So I want to get to that, and I'd love to hear your perspective from both of you, but it's pretty uncommon for a company to acquire somebody nearly their size. All right. So if you're 30 employees buying a 25-person company, and I know revenue and especially EBITDA and operation maturities are probably not equal, but just hearing those things, it just kind of feels like you're not the whale swallowing the minnow, right? You're the whale trying to swallow another whale. And most people talk about, the first acquisition or two is painful when it's a smaller number of folks. So how was that acquisition, and what were the lessons learned from that?
You mean from the Choice Technologies or from the Choice Technology?
The one that brought Melissa.
Yeah, the one that brought Melissa.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, and again, I wasn't part of the decision-making process. So on the acquisition, that was Brian Usher, our owner, and Simon Tutt kind of went out and determined who, when, where, right? I think one of the most significant things for us, if I can kind of look back, is it was the people that we brought into DP Solutions was our biggest acquisition asset. That was not the intention. The intention at the time, DPS was kind of flat and like dipping a bit. So the intention was to bring in an organization to uplift our revenue and opportunity. And in the end, yes, it did that. But the game changer for us was the folks that we brought into the team that solidified the team, that has allowed us to kind of grow and evolve and develop. That's been huge for us.
How did that feel thank you, Karen. How did that feel from your side, Melissa? Because you were just getting introduced to DP Solutions.
Yeah, I mean, this was obviously first time going through an acquisition, so there was a lot of uncertainty coming in. I think the way it was handled, kind of now knowing years later how acquisitions do get handled, I do feel like, it was handled as it should be. You have to work through a lot. On my end, I was dealing with the system side of things and getting all the systems integrated into one system so that we didn't have multiples of RMM and other things, all those tools that we were using. And that was a big lift just in and of itself. So there was a lot of tasks and items that needed to be accomplished as part of the acquisition for both sides to be successful. And being part of kind of that team that was helping with that was huge. And it helped me really understand the company and want to stay for long term, right? So it sure, is there always room for improvement? Of course. But I think the way it was handled was appropriate.
Let me ask you this. You have a rare view as the incoming president. So, now you're going to be overseeing the entire company. But when you came in, that wasn't the case. And my point is, I interview the CEOs, the presidents, those sort of things, so they have their perspective. But you were on the other side. You had the incoming, kind of employee perspective. What would you tell to, yourself then, knowing what you know now, that you think might be helpful to somebody else? It's like, in the employee shoes being acquired, going, I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. What's going on? Why are we doing some of the things that we're doing? Because now you see this much bigger picture than you probably did then.
Yeah, I would tell them that, with any acquisition, it's definitely a period of, time where you need to kind of discover, what is happening, right? What's happening on, do you want to be part of this long term? And it does kind of show, and it stresses the company's way of handling things too when you're in that kind of merger acquisition. So you're going to see things. Oh, well, you don't have this process here. That's okay. We found it. Let's fix it, right? And though you might find gaps, it's a matter of how are you working through it. So I would tell people that give it time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You need to give it time to understand and to really make sure ultimately, at the end of the day, does it align with your core? At the time we had core values. Karen really enforced and has enlightened us on what that could be like further since we were acquired. But coming in, you could feel the ownership, the family mentality, taking the long-term view. You're acquiring a company. They're not just thinking about today. They're looking at how are we making sure that we're setting ourselves up for the future. The teamwork, the surprise and delight, all of those core values, though they might not have been as prominent as us coming in, they were there. And I think it's important that as you're coming into an organization anywhere, that aligns with you and your core. Because if that doesn't align, at the end of the day, you're gonna, you can maybe fake it for another 6 months, but that person's not gonna make it because their core doesn't align with the company. And that's okay. Not everyone is gonna be part of the DPS team.
Right.
And it's important that you're true to yourself with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Karen, what you said was interesting around, like, we didn't know this. Like, we were buying, you didn't say these words, but some version of like growth, revenue. But we got the talent, and that ended up being really huge. I think we miss that so often. I think, it's easy to go into it and say, well, we'll evaluate the team and we'll maybe even try to keep the team, because heck, we need to be able to support that business and those kind of like practical, pragmatic issues. But I think sometimes certain acquirers, they don't realize they have this just wealth of talent there. Did you see that initially, or like when did that become apparent to you, Karen?
So we acquired Choice in April of 2016. And in November of that same year, we had an event here that we call it the November Not to Remember. So I'm not going to get into the details of it.
Wow.
But trust me, it was not a good thing.
Yeah.
And that got as horrific as it was. The one positive that came out of that event was because we had, even though we were trying to integrate, right? You still had DPS and you still had Choice and you were trying to do this.
Yeah.
That event brought the team together, and I call it the kumbaya, right? Everybody came together. We worked together. Folks that weren't technical were involved in technical things. That client engagement was really huge. We had each other's backs, and we learned to be a united front. And that was really the beginning of really the integration of who we are. Would you agree with that, Melissa?
I would absolutely agree. That was a huge event.
That was just huge.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have two camps anymore. We had one.
Yep.
And I think that was really important. And as much as you try to do things, sometimes it does need to hit the fan so that you really find out who do you have and who's got your back. and who do you want next to you, right? And that really came together within the two organizations, and we really became DP Solutions at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. The strongest bonds are often forged in the fire, but man, I don't like those. I don't want to go through them. Like it's wonderful to have those bonds, but if you're in it, it's not where you want to be.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
But a lot of positive came out of it.
Do you think that whatever that was, which I'm like, I need some idea what that was. I'm so curious now. But whatever that was, do you think that it would have happened or as quickly without like this, what I would call forcing function, this, fire?
I think it probably would have taken a better part of a year to get there. It was also, you've got to learn personalities. You've got to learn technically. And honestly, it was more on the technical side of the team. So there was some tug of war going on a bit. And that integration would have happened, but it happened faster as a result of it, right?
Yeah.
People came together, they shared ideas. It wasn't about who was sticking their chest out the furthest, right? It was about being a team and working together. It was huge. And we would have gotten there, but I think we would have gotten there and probably people would have left potentially on the technical team. Maybe. Yeah.
And what advice do you have for making it through? I mean, it was almost a merger of equals in terms of size. Like that's, a lot of people don't survive that, right? They try to pull it off and it becomes kind of, impossible. And it's like you said, it's because there's people there and they have a different RMM, they have a different process, they have a different playbook. And I don't know, like when you're a 5-person org joining a 30 or a 50, you kind of go, okay, like that's, we're going to have
they're going to help us get there faster, right?
We're going to have to follow that way. But when it's almost the same, it's like, gosh, no, let me tell you how we do this part better.
There was a lot of that. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things.
The collaboration was, again, putting the technical side, right? Because there was tug of war a bit.
Sure.
On the account management and how we did things, I think that, I thought that was a win.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the pieces I felt like Choice brought in. There was a very technical focus at DP Solutions when we came in. Yes, there was account managers, but it was very tech focused. I mean, we had a data center here that was a huge offering at the time. So there was a lot of technical folks. And we brought in more of that client focus, customer focus, to the organization. I think it was, that event. I mean, that really was the one that made us, I feel like, more one team, and it would have taken much longer, I think, to get there. And it would have been more painful. I think we would have been working through people and it would have not been a great output at the end. So I'm not glad the event happened, but everything happens for a reason. So yeah.
The curiosity is getting the better of me. Can you frame what this is? Like, not naming people, but is the event a power struggle, or just the building burned down, or like I just trying to get a.
So the event is we at the time we were using a platform monitoring our computers, and one of our engineers, or there was a script set to run that wiped out operating systems of all of our managed devices. So at the time, what was it, Karen? Like probably 4,000 or 5,000 devices, or was it? Yeah.
Yes.
4,000 or 5,000 devices we had to rebuild. I was rebuilding computers, which was great because I got to also meet, people that I hadn't been working with. And now kind of thinking back to it, I wonder if that was kind of the start of me thinking, I could do more than just be an account manager. Because I was, we had a service desk manager at the time was not great. So there was definitely an opportunity there for me. So.
Yeah, so you were account manager and you were rebuilding OSs.
Yes.
So
I'm sitting on the service desk taking calls thinking, okay, I could, and then I'm watching the service desk manager at the time also taking calls thinking, you're not managing anything.
Right. Right. So I'm inferring, and I don't want to make this up, so I'm going to ask this, but it sounds like it pulled the right people together.
Yes.
And everybody got in the trenches together.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
It also sounds like maybe you saw where there were some gaps in leadership in certain cases.
I mean, Karen ran the show on this one for sure. I don't think she slept for 3 weeks.
No, the big thing is I can remember somebody coming in and the fellow said to me, "Didn't you have those clothes on yesterday?"
Yeah.
And on day 3 of not going home, anyway, nobody would let me drive. So
that's probably a good call.
Yeah. And it was, and the one thing that's really incredible is out of all of it, we lost one client.
That's ridiculously amazing.
And the majority of our clients were impacted. We only lost one client. And honestly, it was a client that we could lose because they weren't, the engagement and the communication and how we handled things. It was incredible. It was really incredible. But can we focus on something else and move on?
We don't want to remember that.
It was a game changer for us. I mean, I brought it up because I thought it was extremely important, but I don't want it to be a focus because that's not who we are today.
Well, what's interesting to me, here's why I think this is interesting so far. People like to talk about all the positives, but we all have something like this.
Okay. Yep.
And
that's fair.
I have interviewed I've interviewed a couple MSPs where they infected all their clients with ransomware. Mm. Obviously, when I say they didn't really do it,
No, but
they got into their RMM or whatever, and that happened. And my point is that's about the only comparison I know to make, because 100% of your clients needed you. In those interviews, they're like, we didn't have enough phone lines to answer the number of inbound calls simultaneously, let alone people, and things like that. So, it's most people can't. We can all relate to messing up. At least I can. Boy, I'm raised both hands there. But most of us can't relate to every single client affected. So as much as I hate, that you're revisiting this painful moment, I appreciate your vulnerability, because, it's easy to go, man, you're at 79 employees. You guys are just growing. You're smart enough to have this succession going on where Melissa is taking over. There's all these things, and we're going to get into this because they're important. But I also go, wow, it's like what you said, Melissa. Maybe that's when I realized I could do more. Maybe when I realized this,
she's a badass.
Maybe that's when you realized you're a badass.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that was the start of it all.
Yeah. Well, look, you had a choice, right? One of the choices that you could have made, or you could have, Karen. But certainly, if you said that was the same year you guys merged.
Yes.
Yeah, same year. Yep.
So you hadn't been there a year.
Nope.
Melissa.
Nope. 6 months.
I don't even know if you thought of this because of who you are, but there was a choice. You could have been like, you know what? I'm going to go to another company. I'm going to move on. You had that fight or flight type of thing in it. You chose fight. My point is, not everybody does that. Sometimes when it gets really tough, people just tap out. So the fact that you and Karen and your whole team just threw sleeping and whole things aside for your clients, on one hand, it is truly amazing, but it's also, this is what fires me up about the really, really good MSPs like you, because there is something intangible to why you do this. Do you know what I mean? It is a people business and you're delivering it. But this is what I'm realizing about you as you share this. There's just, yes, you probably need to fix that to make sure you still had a business. Don't get me wrong. But look, there's some people that are, they've gone to business school too long, and they would tell you just to take the insurance check for errors and omissions and move on. Call it a day and fold the business. You know what I mean? Like there would be other people that would take, to me, the wrong choice. And then there's people like you, because we all make mistakes. Like I don't know who the engineer was. I don't know the details. Like I'm kind of curious how you end up doing that. But we all make mistakes and they have impacts. And the fact that you guys pulled together, and that's part of what excites me. It's just like, man, this is what excites me. Not every industry will go to bat and not leave for 3 days. And I haven't even been there a year, and I'm an account manager. I'm going to start reloading OSs, or, that's just not normal. And that's what I love about you guys in this story. It's not normal in a beautiful way.
It's who we are.
It is.
I mean, it's just who we are as a company.
Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes. I mean, we're not perfect. We're human. And It's about it. When you make those mistakes, how are you then reacting? How are you communicating about what that mistake is to make sure that, okay, maybe it's a client and you made a mistake. Okay, let's own it. We made that mistake. And now let's communicate on how we're going to fix it so that this mistake doesn't happen again, or so that they understand why it happened. And we're going to do our best to make sure that we eliminate, mistakes as we go forward.
Well, speaking of owning it, as your clients were calling, I'm sure like, what the heck? None of my stuff works. I'm sure some of them are a little more understanding than others. But like, did you say we messed up? We did it. We caused it.
Absolutely, we did.
I
think you and Simon went on a tour to pretty much every client.
Simon was in Florida when this happened.
Right. Yes.
He was at the ConnectWise.
He was at the ConnectWise conference, right?
And
back.
So I was VP of Ops at the time when it happened, and I can remember calling him, and he was at this, like one of those after parties at ConnectWise.
Yeah.
And he couldn't hear me. And I'm like, you have to get somewhere where you can talk to me.
Yeah.
And talking about the, you know what moment when he was like, what?
Right.
He was gone. Yeah. But then the aftermath, I mean, we rebuilt, but I remember the conversations like with every single client. And
I was talking, I had a list,
Yep.
and I had actions, and I knew what time and when I had talked. I was kind of the quarterback. I wasn't, because I'm not technical. You don't want me to be technical, but I'm very good client. Anyway, I was having those conversations and those engagements, and we kept everybody informed. The one saving grace was it happened on a late Thursday, on a Thursday night, like going into the night. So Friday was a little bit tough, but we had Saturday and Sunday, and thank God it was Veterans Day on Monday. So we had Veterans. I mean, honestly, it was game changing, and we had almost all of our clients up and running by Tuesday morning. But the hours were just crazy. My husband, I'll never forget that weekend. We were driving. I never knew how many USB drives that we would need. And I was like clearing out every part in Walmart around. And I'm like, do you have any more in the back? They were like, no.
What were the drives for?
On to the next.
To do the refreshes for the computers.
To do the refreshes and the reloads. Yeah.
To image them.
Did you load them fresh, or did you have to like go to data backup?
We had to. Everything was loaded fresh. There was not much because of the way the technology was at the time.
Right?
It was fresh loads for every client. And honestly, we were, I think, what was it, like 5 minutes away from this hitting the server side. So it only hit the computers.
Yes.
But they caught it, and thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah, we should clarify that. It wasn't servers too.
Okay, that helps a little bit. I was like,
but that's still, when you're talking 4,000 or 5,000 endpoints, holy crap, right? Anyway.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Monday.
I'm trying to figure out how many days it is. So in 5-ish days.
Like 4 days.
4 or 5 days, you reloaded 4,000 or 5,000 endpoints. I bet you didn't know you could do that.
No, that was a test.
Maybe not in the same way. Hopefully not. Hopefully not the same magnitude. But what advice do each of you have for somebody when you have just kind of this mission impossible? So I'm sure is what it seemed like initially.
Well, I think we've dealt with a couple of impossible moments. I mean, that was one scenario, but I think of COVID even, and I was a service desk manager at that time, and just the change in a day. Everyone was remote, everyone was home, and I feel like it's hard to act this way, but don't panic, right? You got to take as the information is coming, take the information as it's coming, and make sound decisions as you kind of move through. And if something's not right or not going the right way, take that time out and make sure that you can kind of redirect whichever way you're going with that scenario. One of our items we say internally is to slow down. You need to slow down to be able to speed up. So it's important to, when those events happen, it's easy to jump and, all right, let's move real fast, but we have to be able to slow down so that you have success in how you work through those situations.
I love that. That's really practical. I've got a son that's in a sporting event, and they've actually been teaching him fast to slow, and it takes quite a while for that to get through, at least my thick head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you share, Karen? Is there any thoughts you'd have for another VP operating through this, or president, or whoever?
Yeah. You want to instill in your team to raise your hand. Don't hide. Be forthright. Hey, I screwed up. This has happened, or here's a client situation. I'm not really sure what to do, because it's not always us, right? Stuff happens on the client side.
That's right.
But make sure that you put your hand up, that you're truthful, that you're honest, that if you don't have an answer, it's okay to say, right this second, I don't have an answer, but this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to come back to you. Communication is key. It's just critical. It comes back to the relationship, the engagement, the trust, the knowing that I'm in a difficult situation and I'm going to work through it. I've been doing, I call it the world tour. I've been talking to clients that I've had longstanding relationships with about my retirement, Melissa's appointment. Mm-hmm. And I have had clients say to me, the one thing that I have always treasured about DP Solutions is the partnership, the relationship, the engagement, and the honesty that goes along with that. At the end of the day, you got to put your head on your pillow, and you got to know you did the right thing. That's like my mantra. Can I go to sleep at night knowing maybe the day's not always great, but can I go to sleep at night knowing that I did the best that I could do?
That's right.
We did the best that we could do.
Well, and the candor, right? I think sometimes when you're not going through it, it's easy to say, yeah. And then when you're going through it, like, I think we've all seen companies, vendors, websites that call it like performance degradation. And I'm like, it doesn't load at all. Like, that's not performance degradation. That's called an outage. Like, let's be honest here. Like, if I can't get into the app, you know what I mean? It's down. Let's be real instead of like, oh, we're seeing some minor performance issues. I think we've all seen, companies try to
just be honest.
Put lipstick on a pig.
Tell me like it is, right?
Exactly.
Just tell me.
Exactly.
And if the person on the other side can't receive that and work with you, then maybe it's somebody you don't want to have a relationship with.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I talked about, right? We have one client that we lost. It was a client that we didn't really want to have a relationship with, right?
Yeah. That is wonderful. So many lessons there. I want to talk about the growth since this. So if I understand, before the acquisition in 2016, growth had flatlined. And so there's this, what I would call gigantic from a relative size acquisition and all that. And so that gave you somewhere around 50 or 55 employees. And then now you're at 78. That is still a lot faster growth than most MSPs experience. And if I understand two things, one, that's been organic since then. And two, your current strategy is to continue to be only organic. Here's the question. Most MSPs can't figure out, how do you grow like that? Like what's the, open up, give us the secrets that nobody's able to figure out.
Shh, no one's supposed to know.
That's right.
The secret sauce.
The secret sauce.
That's right.
I mean, Karen will have a lot to kind of for the history side of it, but I think it's multiple facets that you need to be focused on in order to get that organic growth, right? We invest in marketing and branding, and we're out there locally, and we're doing a lot of events. And as we've talked about, our relationships with our current clients are huge. We get a lot of referrals from our current client base. All of those things add up to we're able to sustain that organic growth, and we're tracking. I mean, we're doing all those things, and we're tracking to make sure that we're actually getting that ROI on the investment that we're making in the marketing side of things. So,
yeah, I would just say for anybody out there that's listening, go check out our website. That will give you a good vibe of what we do with our marketing team. We have had friendly MSPs come to us, right? Melissa and a couple of the other leaders are part of Evolve. And, we share, this is what we're doing, right? How do we communicate? How do we engage? Referrals, gosh, I wish I knew the number. But last year we had more referral business than we did kind of cold call, like stuff coming in through the website.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's a tribute to what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're doing something right when somebody says, you need IT support, call DP Solutions. Mm-hmm. That's worth gold. Yeah. That's just worth gold. Mm-hmm. And the team that we've had within our new business team, actually when the acquisition, maybe not long after the acquisition was acquired, we brought somebody in to help us with new business. He has since been gone. But we have an individual that came to us through the Choice Technology acquisition. Again, one of the key folks. And he was always one of our senior account managers. Very good leader, does really well with new business, and he oversees that team. And he is, again, it's who he is as an individual, who our team is as individuals. They're transparent, they're honest, they're direct. If we know that we have a situation that's not a good fit for us, we're going to say it.
Yeah.
Because in the past, like we had a period of time where we were bringing in everything, and that becomes painful. Because if it's not within your wheelhouse, like these are not core competencies, and we're stretching our team and our folks, it's not a good place to be. Yeah. And we've always made those conscious decisions, right? We had a very large opportunity last summer. We started onboarding that large opportunity, and a couple of the onboarding meetings, it was very, gosh, I hate to use the word, but it's the truth, very dictating how it was going to be. And it didn't align to who we were. And we kind of sat down as a leadership team, and we made the decision. And it was within the first 30 days that we made contact with that potential client, or was a client at the time, and said, this is not going to work for us.
Wow. It's hard to walk
were
away from.
They were shocked.
What? Yeah. And we made the decision to shake hands and and not move forward. That was huge. Because in years past, we would have sucked the life out of everybody trying to make it work.
Yep.
And that's been game changing for us, to recognize when it's not a good fit and when it's best to shake hands and move away. A lot of companies will not do that.
No, it takes courage and conviction. It also takes clarity. So how do you quantify that? Like, do you have a document of like what we're looking for, or bad fit versus not, or the ideal avatar? Or I'm just curious, like, how do you, or is it in retrospect? Like, you can tell.
So I think over time we've been able to identify more of our target client profile. As Karen mentioned, when that sales leader came on, we did take on kind of everybody, and in that we learned what our target client profile is within that. And now we know, okay, we can't take on a client that has maybe these technologies, but we could take on this client if they're willing to work with us here. So really, we kind of know where our boundaries are when we might have a non-usual client come in that might not fit that target profile. So we are working towards getting more sophisticated with more of a spreadsheet and kind of a way to rate clients. But I think we've done pretty well over the last couple of years, more on bring it into the team. Let's talk about the technology. Okay, thumbs up there. Well, let's talk about them and what does their business look like, and does it align with how we can support them? So,
Melissa, talk about Hub.
Yes. So one of the things that we do internally 3 days a week is we have a meeting called Hub, and it brings all of our departments together. So leadership plus sales and operations. And what we put into those meetings are new clients, new prospects that are coming in, and a review of what is their technology. And it's like a go, no go on that account. So you get the buy-in not only from the leadership team and the sales side, but we're getting buy-in from the technical team, because what would happen is the sales team would just sell it, and then here you go, ops, make it work. And then it would cause a lot of tension between the departments. And now bringing them together to say, all right, this is the way, or this is the client. Do we all agree that this is going to work? And if there is anything that we need to discuss, we make decisions and, we move through it. And if it's really a no, then we say it's a no and we move forward with a no. But we do challenge ourselves even in that, right? Because sometimes people will put up the technical team. No, we can't do that. Okay. Well, maybe we can do that if we do it this way, right? So that's where Karen and I can kind of come in with our think outside the box with some different ideas.
Can you give me, I'd love an example or two just to, maybe help me if I'm listening as an MSP to see what do I want to accept or not, because I think you often have to get a lot of business to realize what you shouldn't have said yes to. And I'm curious if it's like some people graduate and say, oh, if you're under 20 seats, you're those are the easier ones to make, or if it's probably the softer attributes that are harder to quantify.
I think we have a couple different things that we use to quantify the accounts. We do have some minimums, but I will say when we have partners and relationships, those minimums don't matter, because the relationship with that account matters more. And that, okay, they might be two people, but they're a partner of X group that now we have this integration with and different referral opportunities. So it's not just about can we take care of that technology. It's about how does that person even relate within the local platform around us. And then, yes, would we like every agreement to have 20 users at $2,500 every time? Sure. And that is our typical line. But when it comes to the technology side, we're really looking for, are they a Microsoft shop? We tend to, anybody that is a Mac or Google Workspace shop, those are ones that get a little more scrutinized because we don't have that specialty in-house. So we do have to outsource some of that support. And then, when we're talking to the client, do they value our core values? Do they align to the things that align to with us? Are they taking technology seriously? We don't want just a transactional relationship that doesn't help anybody. We want that long term. We want them to invest in their technology. So that does, some of those smaller shops might not, but some of them do value technology and they're going to invest in it. And those ones we will take on as clients.
I wanted to kind of view this in from a culture angle, because we've been talking about culture without saying it, I think, because of how your team responded. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to know what happened, like when you turned that client down. Like how did the team respond to that?
So a little backstory to that period of time. The year prior, we brought on a very large account that I think stretched the team more than we could have even imagined, to be honest. And there's a lot of just stuff within that account, but Karen and the team, and we've worked through and we've been able to retain the account and move it into a different place within the organization. On the heels of that, bringing in the one that we said no to, we probably would have lost really, really good people because of how down the team was. So making that decision, I think, showed the team that we're not just looking to bring in any account and ride everyone until they can't work anymore. So I think it showed that we're making the right decisions bringing in accounts. And I think we've continued to show that with the accounts that have come in.
What is it you do? Like, I imagine there's a part of your team, but you mentioned before that you're incredibly unique in a lot of ways. One of which is you're recently celebrated 50 years in business. And I think you were telling me that you've had some clients for 30 years, which is...
Yep, we sure have.
Longer than some of the people I employ have been alive.
Actually, we have. In fact, I had a conversation with this one client, and the president of that client started working there when she was in her 20s, and I started supporting them when I was in my 20s, and here we are in our early 60s, thinking, "Holy crap, where'd that 40 years go?" And we're still great partners, but just to kind of talk about kind of their journey, they were an IBM mid-range shop. They moved into this world called Microsoft, moved away from that IBM platform. They had their equipment in their location. Just fun story. It got to a point where they were in a large building in Baltimore City, and on the weekends they had climate control, so they would shut down like the air conditioners and stuff. And we had one of our engineers had a key and an access code because we would get notifications that they were overheating, and and he knew that he had to be dispatched to avoid like things crashing. Anyway, so just crazy stuff. So infrastructure in-house during, was it the second week of COVID when we couldn't we moved them from on-prem into Azure Cloud. And we used to be on site and engaged, and it was like our first 100% everything remote engagement. And now they use a lot of software as a service, and I mean it's just like incredible. And we work with their security and compliance, their insurance companies, so they've got special requirements that they need to be. We participate in all those things, but that's like my ultimate story of a client journey, because we've got that little bit of COVID stuff going on in it as well. It's just really incredible. And we have longstanding relationships like that. And it's about doing the right thing, being communicative, making sure that they're leveraging technology, making sure that we understand what their business is, what they're trying to do. We have a core value that's called the long-term view. Mm-hmm. What's the long-term view? It's about DP, but it's about our clients, and it's about our employees, and it's about the people that we come in contact with. Mm-hmm. How do we take that story and keep moving it forward? It's super exciting.
That is most businesses, I think, have, don't make it. There's some statistics about most don't make it 5 years, let alone 30, let alone 50, and then have relationships for 30 years. It's just amazing. I know I have a large portion of my team that haven't been on Earth for 30 years yet.
No, so do we. I mean, like, oh my gosh, I can't, yes, I have to, for me, I have to take a moment and go, okay, they're younger than my kids, right?
Yeah. I want to talk about something else that I think is really, really unusual. And it's the fact, yes, you guys are family owned, and I want to talk about that. But I want to talk about something else first, which is that it's women led. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Start with you, Karen, and why we don't see more of that. And the other thing I think that's very interesting, it's, sure, you're smart enough, you could have started this, but my point is they could choose anyone, right? It's not like you're like, well, I started the company, so therefore I am the president or I was the COO or whatever, right? So, you're clearly the right person, and Melissa's clearly the right person. And I'm curious, what your perspective on that, Karen?
What you just said. Who's the right person for the job? Gender does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very, very strongly about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will also say, wearing work boots and a hairnet and earplugs for 12 years, working in a male-dominated industry and being a female, right? I can remember being at a corporate multiple divisional meeting and somebody saying to me, "Hon, do you work in HR?" Like, I'm going to punch you in the throat. Anyway, because I was shop floor manager at the time. And we were at an event in Philadelphia with, oh gosh, I can't think of, help me, Melissa. Anyway, it was a breakout. It was a break.
Is it IT by design?
It wasn't IT by design. It was Gary
with the Pika. Yeah.
True
Methods.
It was a True Methods event. Sorry, okay. Gary, that I couldn't remember that. And there was a break, and there was a line at the men's room. And then I walked into the ladies' room, and there was no line. And I was like, "Excuse me, can I have your attention?" And all these women are looking at me like, "Okay, you psycho."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Go out in the hallway. There's a line in the men's room, and there is not a line here. Go girls!" Right? I mean, it was just huge. And I will tell you, sorry guys, but women in technology, there should be more of them.
Right.
Because we are multitaskers, we are problem solvers, we are compassionate, we take care of each other, and there's so yes, I say the best person for the job, but there are traits that women have that are different than men, and I think it has served us extremely well.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Not only that it served you well. I kind of expected something like that, but that there are differences, because I don't really subscribe to I'm not equal. Like, I've never met a lady as bad at multitasking as me. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, just you, like there's reasons for those things and their differences. And, anyway, I think that matters and should in what you're thinking about. I'd love to hear your perspective, Melissa, because I look at it and I see that it's male dominated, as some industries are, but I wonder why there aren't more.
Honestly, I feel like there's a perception that, it's tech, it's a man. It's interesting. So as we mentioned, we're part of a peer group. I actually had this exact question asked to me in our last session, because we had a new person come in, and he was like, "Oh, you're like I'm one of three other women in the group, and everyone else is, male." which I've just gotten used to over the years. I mean, it is what it is, because I agree in terms of it's about the right person for the job and the role and the season of where the organization is, right? We can't have DP Solutions if we didn't have Simon before that and previously before that. And who's to say what it could be as we move forward? But I think the one thing for DP Solutions is that the ownership recognizes that they do need to have somebody leading the organization, and that's not their strength, and their strength is the ownership level and the financial side of things. So I think that's also important in just the grand scheme of things. Is it's about the right person for the right role, regardless of if they're male or female, and recognizing that, because there are some MSP owners that don't recognize that, and they are going to be the one. They're going to be the CEO, they'll be the president, they'll be the owner, and then okay, well, what does that look like at the end of the day, right? And you need to have that engagement. So it's important. I love, that we have as many women here and that we do. I do agree that we have a different way of thinking and we got that multitasking ability. But there are men out there that can do that. So it's a matter of, can they show up every day? Are you being part of the team? Or are we doing our jobs and we're making sure that we're making the impact that we need today?
Is there any, I think you both are, like, there's probably a lot of ways that this is oversimplifying it, but unique in two ways, because this is not all of them, but the two that stand out are, sales or account management or marketing, or those are like kind of fairly, everybody starts somewhere, but I think people forget that, or they decide to, to kind of stop their progression. Both of your cases, you didn't. You chose not to. And for the aspiring women leaders that are listening, right? Well, I would love to hear those things, because I think those are two things that, male or female, there's just a lot of people that go, I don't know, I'll stay in this one role or one area for, either for life or for a long time and not progress as quickly as you both did. But also, I think there's, I don't know what it is. I think there's just people that struggle to wonder if they can do it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you're your own worst enemy. If you think you can't do it, or if you're telling yourself you can't do it, then you're never going to do it. But if you can kind of switch your mindset and say, okay, I have this goal and I want to be here. I think what gets lost sometime, what I've found with our current kind of the people coming up, is it's almost like they feel like something's going to be given to them. I've never in my entire career thought anything's going to be given to me. I've always worked really hard to make sure that I'm going to get, to the next level. And I think that's important for anybody coming into the world, is it's not just going to be given to you, whether you're male, female, identify as something else, right? You have to, if you want something, you got to ask for it, and you got to show that you can get there. It's not just going to be given to you.
I want to switch gears for a moment. Karen, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in all your years in business?
Don't be afraid to say that you don't have the answer.
I love that.
I think that's the biggest. Don't avoid difficult conversation. That's my number one. Don't avoid difficult conversation, because in the end, it's only difficult because you haven't had it.
I don't like that one as much. That one's harder.
Yeah. I think that would be my biggest. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to have that conversation. Don't be afraid to put your hand up. That's been my biggest one.
If there's one lesson you could do over differently, what would that be?
Honestly, I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets. I don't have any do-overs when it comes to business. I think I've done the best that I can do.
Melissa, I know one of your answers is liable to be your excitement about taking over. But I'm curious, given that you're doing that, given what's going on in the industry and the world, et cetera, what's something you're looking forward to?
What's something I'm looking forward to? So I look forward to to us continuing to be problem solvers for our clients, to strengthen our clients' relationships and experiences. I mean, I know that's kind of a traditional answer, but in the uncertainty of this world right now, it's important and needed that we focus in on our current clients and make sure that we're keeping them happy and moving them forward the way that we need to. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have clients, we don't have a company. So we need to make sure that that's top of mind. And then just continuing on with the culture and developing our team. One of my biggest focuses is making sure that, I can be out and do president things and not have to worry about the service ticket that's coming in from one of our largest clients. And in order for me to do that, it's having the A team on our management and leadership team. That's what it is. So I'm looking forward to continuing that team and their growth as well.
Yeah. I think in all the excitement of you becoming the new president, it's easy to think about that and think you've been here for a long time and this is exciting. It seems, nothing but good. And it's not that it's bad, but it just kind of hit me. It's like, oh, you've got to groom somebody else. You've got to have somebody else step up. Yep. You've got to know that you've got the right player because you're stepping out of a role.
Correct. Yep.
So yeah, its own challenges. Speaking of that, what is your biggest challenge now?
Gosh, biggest challenge. I think it's really staying in front of client expectations. So, one of our themes this year is unreasonable hospitality and really going above and beyond for our clients. And how can we make sure? I mean, we mentioned earlier, we're not going to be perfect, but how can we be more proactive with our communication? How can we set better expectations so that the perception and the feeling on the other end is always good and not, uncertain? So I think it's a lot of working towards that.
I like what you said, unreasonable hospitality. I love that. I think most people wouldn't even think to use hospitality, let alone unreasonable. I love that frame. Let's start with you, Melissa. What's the number one book you'd recommend?
So on that theme, I'm picking Unreasonable Hospitality. So we read this book towards the end of last year. I've read a few customer service and client service type books over the years. And honestly, all of them speak to me in different ways. This one really focused in on making every client interaction feel special and making sure that they are really, it's on a personal level more so than just a transactional level. And that's something that we take very seriously at DP Solutions. If we hear that a client's having a life event, a child or something like that, we're getting a card together, we're getting everyone to sign in and we're sending them, a bump box or something, something special to make them feel good on the other end. So I think it's important that we continue that, but that book was a foundation for that methodology.
Wow, I had no idea. Well, I walked you into that one. So Unreasonable Hospitality is your number one book. That's, guys, for anybody listening, we didn't plan it that way. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. They're going to think there's some fancy editing, but that's just how that worked out. That's funny. What would you say, Karen? Is there a resource or a book that you would say this is what I recommend?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. And then he also has a book, Never Lose an Employee, which is Unreasonable Hospitality. That book was kind of a foundation. But this is kind of takes it to the next level. Some of the suggestions are a little out there. I would love to be an extremely wealthy, profitable organization. Like we're doing okay, but it's like some of the stuff is like over the top. But again, it's about relationship engagement. How do you make somebody feel good? And the intention is, we at the end of every call, or at the end of every project or onboard or quarterly business review, we want to know how we did. So that make sure that we're making an impact. And sometimes, we get these responses and we get information of how our clients perceive us and how they perceive our team. And it's huge. And it makes a huge impact. That personal connection that you have the opportunity to make is ginormous. I mean, it's about all those things, because IT is not, it's not like a sexy thing. Like it's either working or it's not.
And then you're mad.
Yeah. So how do you make that difference? And those books have been really good.
You're talking to the guy that was an MSP that now does backup for MSPs, and neither of those are super glorious or sexy, but I think it's really interesting and telling that both of you recommended books around customer service. Really interesting. And I think that there's a lot of us who we haven't made the connection that this is a people business or a service business, not a technology business. But then there's another level framing it of, that this never lose a customer or unreasonable hospitality even is a word that we just don't use usually in this industry. And I don't mean to pick on the acronym, but if you think about managed service provider, that doesn't sound real hospitable, so I think there's a lot of improvement that we can do as an industry.
Can I have fun for a moment?
Please.
You said I could keep it interesting. Melissa, slide back and grab your hat and put it on.
Which one? The propeller?
Your propeller hat. Yeah, your propeller hat.
I was waiting for the propeller hat to come through.
Okay. So we can all be propeller heads, right? Yeah. This is my little, if I'm talking to the team, you can all be technical. You can all spin your propellers. You can all talk to people that use technology but aren't geeks like you guys.
Yes.
Or you can take your hat off and you can be a real person that has a conversation and can talk to someone like they're a person and not a computer chip.
Yeah.
Right. And those are key. That's key to who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it took me too long to learn that. And I think in this day and age with technology and AI and all the things, just everything's changing faster.
Yes.
It doesn't look like it's going to slow down. That need for people to be people is just it's never been higher, and I don't think it's going to ever decrease.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that is exactly the way to go. I've learned so much today. I'm looking at the time going, gosh, I have so many more questions. It could go 2 more hours easily. But I want to be a good steward of your time for folks that would love to reach out and connect with you individually. Pick your brain, get your advice, those sort of things for whatever reason. Are you open to that? And if so, how would they find you?
They can go to our website, and there's a contact page, or we have all the folks are there. Melissa and I are both on LinkedIn, and please don't hesitate. It's an opportunity to learn both ways.
Yep.
I love that frame. I love that. Well, don't miss out on the opportunity to connect with both Karen and Melissa. And if you have the courage, ask them questions, because it's a huge opportunity to learn so many things. I've learned a lot today, and it's been a blessing to have you on. And so hard to get one of you, let alone both of you. So I really appreciate you making this time for both of you to be available at the exact same time. It's not a mirror or an illusion. They're actually both available at the same time. And that's not lost to me. Karen, Melissa, thank you for being on MSP Mindset.
Thank you, Damien.